Hi friends, this is Angelica. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing how I put this set of cards together using products from the Greetery. I did record making these cards a couple months ago. They were featured on the Greetery's blog, but I never found time to finish this video, so here we are. I'm going to walk you through my process and share some of my summer with you. So we're going to start with the wildflower mix. I die cut Arches cold press watercolor paper, and I'm going to be painting with Mission Gold watercolors. I bought this palette a few years ago and I've really enjoyed it. The colors are vibrant. The paints have a steady light fast, which means that they're not going to fade away, or they're not going to fade away really quickly. Now for the painting technique, there is no technique. I am just laying colors down on each group of flowers and letting the paint dry back just a little bit. You're going to see me add more paint to the flowers, sometimes the same color, sometimes another color close to the other color on the color wheel, so the colors don't get too muddy. I stuck close to adding a second color if I wanted there to be multicolors on the petals. And since the paper isn't completely dry when I'm doing this, the paints will move just a little bit, but they're not going to completely blend into the bottom layer. So it's going to give the petals a really pretty, but kind of messy look, if that makes sense. I mean, it looks really messy when you're looking at this panel, but once I start gluing the stems and flowers together, you're going to see what I mean. So I'm going to keep my whole watercoloring process on screen, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the last couple months. I've been away from my craft room. If you can't tell, I haven't been really busy on my YouTube channel, on my blog, on social media. I've just been really enjoying summer with my daughter. Her and I have done some traveling. I took her down to Florida for a long vacation. I have family in Florida, including my two older boys, and I now have a new grandson, so we were able to spend a lot of time with them. We got some beach time in. I took Vera to St. George Island, one of my favorite beaches to go visit. We went there a few times, and Vera just had a lovely time in the warm Gulf of Mexico water. You know, we live on the West Coast, so the Pacific Ocean is super cold. So she just absolutely loved it was probably like 85-degree water. We also got to see some really cool thunderstorms, and Vera thought it was so cool that it was storming. I mean, it was raining so hard, but it was still really warm outside. In fact, during one of the storms, lightning struck a tree on the property next to us, and it was so startling. I was in the garage when it happened, and it shook me. I felt it. Like, I felt it in my chest. It hurt my ears. It was so loud, and it was just like the light from the lightning and the sound from the lightning happened together, and I'd never seen that. You know, I used to live in Florida, so I've been through many thunderstorms, and that thunder will get close, or the lightning will get close, and the thunder is super loud, but I had never been that close to a lightning strike. We waited for the storm to pass, and once it passed, we went to go see the tree, and the tree was completely blown up. The bark was off the tree. There was parts of the trunk that was peeled back. I mean, it kind of looked like a melted candle. Even the ground around the tree was blown up. It was really surreal to see, and to know that, we had been so close to it. So we just had a fabulous time in Florida, and once we got home, we had a few days to unpack and get back on West Coast time, and then we had some friends fly in. My old friend from high school, he was our foreign exchange student. He was from Croatia. Well, he lives in Sweden now, and he brought his daughter. She's 15. He brought her to the States, and they stayed with us. So we did a lot of day trips around Washington State, which was so much fun. We're about a 2-hour drive from Mount St. Helens, and Mount St. Helens has always been one of my favorite places to visit. And I've been to I've been all over the States, and still, Mount St. Helens is one of the most beautiful sights I've ever seen. Um, we took the girls there for a picnic. It was such a beautiful day too. The temperature was about 80 degrees. The sun was out. The views were gorgeous. If you ever get a chance to visit the mountain, I highly recommend it. It looks so different now than it did when I was a kid. I was about 4 years old when it blew up in 1980. So I remember going there in the summers in my childhood. And in those years, there was no green at all. There was nothing but gray, and all of the trees were on the ground. They just looked like spilled toothpicks. But now, there's so much green. Weyerhaeuser came in shortly after the explosion and hand planted seedlings to get trees to grow back. So there's lots of trees now, and it's beautiful. I mean, it's Mother Nature at her best. And I'm glad we got to go there. We went on the most perfect day, and yeah, it was just a lovely experience. I'm going to get back to the project. I am almost done with my painting. I did do, I think, 2 or 3 layers on the stems and leaves. I just played around with a few different greens in this palette. And now I'm going to start gluing the flowers and the stems together. Now, one thing I love about this wildflower mix is there is no specific way to put the flowers together. You can just mix and match and, make however you want your flowers to look. At the top of each stem, there are little circles for you to add your glue to, and then you just glue on or add the petals on top of the glue. That's what I'm doing here. I just would pick a group of flowers to put on each stem, and I'm using art glitter glue. It's my favorite glue to use. It's super thin, so I just would put a dot of that glue on those little circles, and I have a wax pencil that I'm using to help me get those really small petals onto the stems. I did watercolor a second panel off screen. That way I had a lot of flowers made to make the 4 cards. So I put all of those flowers together too, and then I did one last step before putting the cards together. I have a fine tip brown pen that I'm going to add dots to the center of some of these flowers, just to give the flowers a little bit more interest. And once I'm done with this, I'm going to move on to getting the card bases put together. I want my cards to be really clean and simple, so I decided to make a window frame to put the flowers in. And I'm going to die cut that window with the Greetery's Window Dressing Dotted Scallops die. There's 2 dies in this set, and the frames, they're really interesting. They will die cut the frame and leave a beautiful dotted detail around the frame, and then they'll also at the same time put that same design on the square it's cutting out. Now I'm going to stamp "Thank You" on the frame, and this stamp came from the Greetery's Hoop Wreath stamp set. This is a retired stamp set, but I love the font on the greetings that are in this sentiment or in this stamp set, so I've held on to this stamp set, and I've used the "Thank You" so many times. I just think it's such a beautiful, clean font. So to add the panel to a card base, I backed it with foam adhesive, and now I'm going to just make a little bouquet in the window. I did put some foam adhesive, little thin foam adhesive squares on the back of the flowers to hold them into place and give them a little bit of dimension. I made a second card the same way with the window just being a square and adding a small bouquet in the window. And then I decided to I still had some flowers left over, so I decided to make a couple more cards. And this time I turned the die a little bit so it would make a diamond shaped window. I used my 0 center ruler to make sure that I had the die in the middle of the panel. And then I stamped the thank you again and did the same steps, added the panel to a card base with foam adhesive, and added the flowers with thin foam squares. One of these cards, I did just put one flower in it, just to give it an even more clean and simple look. And I did white on white. One last thing I did do, I should have mentioned first, I had these panels trimmed down a little bit before I die cut the windows. And that's the best thing to do, is to trim the panel first instead of doing it afterwards, so you know with your 0 center ruler that the windows are in the middle of the panel. So here's a quick look at all 4 cards together, and that's going to finish this set of cards. I'm glad I was able to find some time to sit down and share my process of how I put these cards together. It was fun talking a little bit about my summer. I don't share my personal life too much on social media, so I hope you enjoyed my stories. That's all that I have for today. I do have a lot of videos coming in the near future. I have been busy working and editing some projects and making some videos, so be sure to subscribe if you'd like to see those. Like I said, they'll be out shortly, so I will be back then. Take care, friends.